Good afternoon, everyone. Let's wait while all participants will be on the line. Hi. Unfortunately, we do not see participants, but we feel that you are joining us every minute, every second. Good afternoon. We are very glad to welcome all of you at the first Colliers webinar, which are devoted to the COVID impact on the Baltic retail sector. My name is Evgenia Kisleva, and I am Associate Director in Colliers International and responsible for the retail sector. Let's wait just a couple of minutes while all of us will be on the line. While we are waiting, I would like to tell all of you, thank you for your questions. Thank you for your questions to us, thank you for sharing your experience with us, because by that we're really covering the full picture and we could see what is happening on the market right now. So I feel that more or less all participants are joining right now. And I would like to remind you that we have only 40 minutes, so we will try to be very sweet and short this time. And basically, let's wait 1 minute and we will continue with our agenda for today. So regarding our agenda, the first session will start my colleague Agia Verdinya, Associate Director of the Research of the Colliers International Research and Advisory Department. Agia will share with you the summary of the Colliers survey, which was made by the Baltic team, and she will share the impact on COVID. She will share the insight and the sentiment of the landlords and the tenants. Then we will continue with the session number 2, which will be held by our colleague Katja Zubsman, the head of retail in Estonia, Colliers International. And Katja will share the insight from the landlord perspective, basically what landlords are feeling right now, what is the behavior of the landlords, how they act, how they feel, what is the future sentiment of the landlords. And the last session will be covered by me, and I will take a look more from the tenant perspective, what is the tenant behavior, how they feel right now, and I will end with a quite positive a note about reopening of the stores. And I will share experience how our colleagues from EMEA is looking at the opening of the stores after COVID. And well, thank you one more time for all your questions. We will try to incorporate some questions to our answers, but if some of the questions are not covered, please feel free to send us emails or just call us directly, because we really would like to be sure that all answers are delivered to you. And in case there will be some more interesting topics to discuss, we will think about another format of the questions and answers. And so, do not waste time. I'm giving floor to my colleague Agia, please.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Sorry, I hope you can see me. And as Evgenia already said, my name is Agia Verdinya, and I'm Associate Director at the Research and Advisory Department at Colliers International Latvia office. And today my task is to share the results of the survey most of you were participating in. So let's start what was the market situation when we were conducting the survey. In Estonia and Lithuania, shopping centers were closed, while in Latvia we had shopping centers open on all days except for weekends. And in all markets we have grocery, pharmacies, opticians, and pet stores working. As I said, and as also Yevgeny elaborated, the survey was conducted in all 3 Baltic states. It was done at the beginning of April, once we were at the state of emergency already for 2 to 3 weeks. We managed to survey more than 26 shopping center owners, and few of them have shopping centers in more than one Baltic country. Also, we managed to survey almost 20 tenants, most of which who operate in all 3 Baltic markets. And overall, 80% of our respondents have their business activities restricted in one way or another. Survey was divided in 4 parts. Firstly, we tried to see immediate impact on the business. Second, what was the government support available and how much it was used. Thirdly, what will be the short-term impact, meaning 12 months impact on the market. And lastly, what is going to be the long-term impact? And I remind you, this is all your answers and what you believe in, and they are just compiled by us. So let's start with the current impact, and there is no doubt that the retail sector was hardly hit and is still hardly hit by the COVID-19 outbreak. And 2 ways how we could measure it is by footfall change and sales change. And we ask you to say what was the difference between the footfall and sales March 2020 compared to March 2019. And more than 75% of still open shopping centers indicated a footfall decrease of more than 50%. While the tenants that indicated that their footfall is not that much affected are the ones that which activities are not restricted, meaning grocery, pharmacies, and pet stores. Overall, the hardest hit is to the fashion industry, where they have more than 70% decrease in the footfall. And you would think that now you see many companies going online and that online could help, even though there are respondents that were saying that their e-sales or e-retail channels are doing good. Those were the same industries that had good sales figures overall, meaning grocery, pharmacy, pet stores again. And even though fashion have their e-channels, they cannot compensate for in-store purchases. And also, people are not that fast to change their sales habits. At this point, many have lost some income, and also many are making savings and are not spending money that much as before. Moving forward, seeing how hard the tenants and landlords have been hit, we looked at how government is or is not helping. And the hardest part, I think, is for landlords, as at the point when we were conducting the survey beginning of April, most of the landlords, 90%, said that they haven't had or felt any government support, direct or indirect. Now I know that there are some support available in Estonia and Lithuania. Katya will elaborate a bit more on that. However, there is still no support in Latvia. For tenants, the situation are better. 90% are using some kind of government support for their idleness workers, offset taxes, etc. And taking this into account, the expected recovery period is quite long, both for tenants and landlords, as more than 30% of landlords and more than 50% of tenants expect that this will take more than 1 year for them to recover. And there is always this possibility to negotiate rent breaks, rent discounts, etc. between tenants and landlords, while up to the point when we were conducting the survey, only 30% had already agreed on that, and another 30% were in the middle of some discussions. And so what do you think will be the short-term impact on the retail market? This is harsh, as all tenants stated that there will be decrease in the demand. Landlords were a bit more optimistic, with 1/4 believing that there will be no change. However, if the tenants think that there will be demand, then landlords are just there and they have to accept it. Impact on rental prices, there definitely will be impact. 45% of tenants believe that headline rents will decrease, and 45% of tenants also believe that there will be rent incentives with objection to decrease total rental payments. Which brings us to the long-term impact on retail market, and there no doubt will be one, which was one thing that was really interesting for me was that 20% of landlords still think that more retail space will be needed, while none of the tenants indicated it. 50% of tenants believe that less space will be needed, and partly I think that could be explained by their observation that e-commerce might increase even further, and maybe then they will need less stores. And also what has been trend from the previous year, and we see that, and you see that increasing, is flexibility, meaning that half of landlords and 40% of the tenants believe that there will be increased usage of short-term agreements. And also many indicate that there will be increase in usage of turnover rents. However, this is a fact that might not like landlords, as that means that the cash flow won't be guaranteed or as stable as before, which impacts the investors and in a way also bank financing. And for the previous years, we have seen lots of redevelopments and repositionings of retail premises in all three Baltic markets. And due to the COVID, only 25% of respondents think that this will continue. And I know Yevgenia will touch the subject of how to reopen the stores. And from what I have seen, there have been reopenings with lots of digital solutions, making physical or person-to-person contact less needed. While from our respondents, only 25% believe that there will be increased automation or digital implementations in the stores. There is no doubt the retail market is affected. It will change. However, nobody can predict how and in which direction this will happen. Because this will be impacted both by government decisions, by further COVID-19 outbreak, and the length of the period we are going to be in this kind of lockdown. This is all from my side. I hope it gave you some insight. You can find more in the report that we prepared. And I'll switch to my colleague, Katya, and she will tell you more about landlord's perspective on this. Katya?
Thank you very much, Agia. My name is Katya, and as you heard, I will cover COVID-19 impact from landlord's perspective, and I'll try to share with you my screen so you can also see the slides. which we prepared for you. So basically, we now all know that the governments declared an emergency situation in all Baltic countries more or less at the same time. And not from the day one, but for example, in Estonia, almost 2 weeks later, shopping centers were closed. Similarly to Lithuania, also except for supermarkets, pharmacies, telecoms, and some other few retailers, but in Latvia they stayed open except for the weekend. And though this situation is quite unique for the whole world, and we never been in this situation before. For example, in Estonia, it was possible to leave open standalone shops, or shops who are situated in the shopping centers, but have a separate entrance from the street, though majority of the landlords were happy to give this possibility to the tenant. The majority of tenants left this possibility unused and closed their doors. And also the standalone shops in Estonia, for example, would stay open, but quite fast after the declaration of emergency situation, they also closed their doors together with restaurants. And so we just see that it's not always the regulations which put tenants to decide on closing down, but it might be corporate strategy or just their decision. And what we have noticed also in Estonia, especially in between the emergency situation was declared, but prior to the regulation for shopping center to close down, that shopping centers who are situated in the residential areas, they don't lose so much of the footfall and turnovers in this short period of time as the shopping center situated in the city center. Maybe only some 30% actually for them. But in city center, shopping centers were already quite empty 3 days after the declaration of emergency situation. So also, of course, tourists were absent already by this time, and that also was more seen in the city center, as usually they are shopping there more. So what have been landlords doing in March? As we know that the shopping centers usually issuing the invoices in the beginning of the month. So at this time, this emergency situation wasn't declared. So the invoices were issued as usual. But of course, many landlords confirmed that they will or already had compensated tenants after reviewing the results of March footfalls and turnovers. And while analyzing the month, landlords describe it as life before and after March 13th. The situation, of course, changed drastically after that. The majority of landlords are analyzing the discounts for March rent on case-by-case scenario. Some of them are not planning to offer any discounts for the March rent and rather focus on the following months. But for example, in Estonia, there was one interesting example of very quick reaction to the situation as Astri Group, who owns, for example, Tartu Lõunakeskus and Astri Fama shopping centers in Narva and also Baltic market in the city center of Tallinn. They demonstrated an example of extreme fast reaction and major proactivity, and declared openly straight after the emergency situation was announced that they will give discounts to all the tenants whose businesses were affected. So it's worth mentioning that such proactivity was very positively noticed by the tenants, and will only strengthen the tenants' loyalty towards this landlord. The important factor analyzing these March situations with invoices and with tenants asking for discounts is actually not how and for which amount the rent invoices were issued, but what are and will be the payments in reality, if and when will be the bills fully paid by the tenants, because we can already notice that there are some difficulties to collect the payments, even if the bills were corrected actually. So today is clear that in Estonia, shopping centers stayed closed for whole April. In Lithuania, actually, they already opened, and in Latvia, it's different situation. But for example, again, if you're talking about the Estonian approach, then the invoicing approach in April seems to be very different among shopping center owners. And there is no common rule how landlords are solving the situation, while the vast amount of, let's say, major shopping center owners decided not to invoice tenants for the period when the shopping center was closed. Of course, here we are talking about those who are really closed. Of course, we are not talking about the groceries or telecom outlets. And while the shop was closed due to the state regulations, many of landlords haven't issued an invoices for the tenants at all. Some of the landlords issued the invoices for April with very big discounts, up to 75%, so only 1/4 of the usual rent. And some of them are implementing still case-by-case approach and not having any common rule for all the tenants, and agreeing with tenants individually. And we know one maybe landlord who is issuing also invoices in full, but offering just 90 days of payment, so 3 months of payment instead of usual 10 days or so. Some information from Latvian market, which I received from my colleagues, that the major difference is the fact that shopping centers are not closed during the weekdays, but their operation and footfalls are still hugely disrupted by the restrictions and customer behavior during the state of emergency. As we heard that it's even seen from the parking lots that shopping centers were quite empty, and at least in the beginning of first part of April for sure, and then maybe even third week. While shopping centers in Estonia and Lithuania could at least economize on general costs, decrease security, lighting on some floors, etc. Of course, shopping centers in Latvia couldn't do it on those 5 days where they are open every week. So the centers in Latvia don't have this possibility also to diminish the general costs and to do it a little bit easier for their tenants. Hence, this situation in Latvia, there is not possible to just waive the invoices for the tenants. And overall, all shopping center managers are dealing with rent discounts case by case. Some landlords are giving discounts to the majority of the tenants. Some are providing just postponed payments, and still there are some landlords who haven't taken any decision, and just waiting for month to finish and to see what the overall results will be, and what the situation will be. In Lithuania, shopping centers were closed from the middle of March and until the April 25. The restriction applied for all activities excluding groceries and pharmacies. Even a depot could only leave food section open, and rest of items sales areas were restricted. And the quarantine easing started from the restrictions were lifted from outdoor shops, then transferring to standalone shops, providing separate entrances, and opening of shopping centers on April 25th. The barber shops, beauty salons, and outdoor cafes open its doors on 27th. Even though some people are still careful and avoid going to the shops, there was notable return of customers, especially in Vilnius and Kaunas. People were even standing outside in the queues. And just a second, yeah. While it's clear that shopping centers are having great losses, there is no much help so far from government side, which is aimed directly to landlords in Baltic states. Last Friday, the Estonian government has decided to support retail and service facilities that have been closed due to the coronavirus outbreak by partially covering their rent payments with a total of 4 million to be distributed by the Ministry of Finance through representative organizations. It's worth mentioning that Colliers Analytics were helping Estonian Traders Association with statistics in order to have some basis for the calculation of aid package. And the government has supported the proposal by the Estonian Traders Association, according to which commercial businesses should be provided with rental payment aid equaling the reduction in rent by the owner of the rental space, but not more than 25%. This means that if the owner reduces the tenant's rent by 25%, the state will provide an additional 25% compensation for the amount, so that the tenant only needs to pay 50% of the initial rent. The measures only apply if the property owner also reduces the tenant's rent. Though this was declared, it's not quite clear if that decision was taken so late deliberately, because Estonian Traders Association had the petition straight after the shopping centers were closed, knowing that many landlords haven't issued any invoices in April, and though minimizing the amount of the applicants who will be qualified for that aid. It's also not clear currently if the shopping centers will actually benefit from that all, because the idea of the aid is clearly to support the retailers in the shopping centers. And though it seems unlikely, but hopefully that still will help tenants to fulfill the obligations towards the landlords. And at the moment, the Estonian Traders Associations are working to understand what will be the procedures itself, and it's not all 100% clear to all the parties involved. In Latvia, there is right now no state aid, but in the beginning of this week, there was discussion with the Retail Association, where participants were major landlords of the shopping centers, lawyers, Colliers representatives, and there is a plan to apply for a similar aid package as in Estonia in Lithuania, but details are still not clear. And now we will see what's proposed in Lithuania. One relief was that retail, leisure, and hotels were relieved from real estate tax payments in Vilnius. And the other incentive under discussion and coming close to finalization is rent relief scheme, which is in short following. If landlord grants minimum 30% discounts, then government then government is compensating 50% of rent, so retailer is left to pay 20% of rent. But unlikely from Estonia, this support is meant to be managed through landlord. The scheme is applicable to activities and businesses that were directly affected by quarantine restrictions on March 14. So it's a little bit different from Estonian approach, and still, while discussing it with my colleagues from Lithuania, it's also not quite clear. Nobody from the sector haven't seen yet any money, so it's also under discussion how it has to be handled, and we remain to analyze it and just hope that that it will be relief for Lithuanian landlords. Nevertheless, as the majority of shopping center owners are very well capitalized companies and have been quite successful during past years, we believe that with cooperation with their banks and by rescheduling the taxes, they will survive this crisis and will find a way out of it. And needless to say that the main battles are still to be fought in future, probably as even after the reopening, industry will be faced with decreased footfall and turnovers due to the limitation in traffic and drop of revenues. There are some indications of dramatic changes in customer behavior. All that in combination with probably increased vacancy will force the rent levels to decrease. And next slide, I'll show you some insights and key observations of markets across EMEA. I'm sorry, just a second.
Katya, you have some more minutes and then we are going to the section on tenants because time is running and we try to cover all topics.
Okay, then maybe I'll just leave the key observation of markets across EMEA just here on the screen, and shortly we'll just wrap up what I have left. Just in order to finish all this my part a little bit on the more positive note, we also have some analysis of indicators from the previous crisis. So like they say that the best way is to predict the future is to study the past. And so we looked back to the previous crisis in 2009 and tried to compare the situation then and now. And those are all the data from Estonia, but we believe that they are not very different in Baltic. So this graphic shows consumer confidence index over the past decade and more. That leaves us with the impression that situation today is way better than back in 2009. We can even speculate that it might quickly improve as there is a most probably very a big part of emotion and fear in today's confidence indicator. We see that line on the graphic dropped straight down in March and April, while back then in 2009 it went down more stepwise and not so straight. Still, the consumers are quite pessimistic over economic situation over the next 12 months. And we also see that fear is to become unemployed, where the indicator hit the new anti-record, which might be also emotional fear and not a long-lasting. So that will be remained to analyze. Still, the last result of counter-Emmer survey in Estonia showed that there is strong positive trend in the consumer confidence. About 41% of respondents believe that situation will shortly improve. And last, last one I wanted to show you. Its indicator we follow is the stock of household deposits. we can see that in comparison to 2009, the deposits have grown 2.3 times. So technically, we can assume that we can handle the crisis 2 times better than before. Also, average gross salary is almost 2 times higher than in 2009, about 90% higher. However, the inflation within the same period of time is cumulatively 25%. So there is hope, providing we are heading out of this lockdown for good, and hopefully no second wave are coming. And after the shopping centers opened, we are heading into not the most active season in retail, so nothing will recover from the day one. But as we will approach the most active season in autumn, we hope that the situation will start to improve. And I'll give the floor back to Evgenia from Latvia, who will cover the next section.
And now the dessert. So, sharing my screen. We would like to close our session with the COVID impact on tenants. And of course, it goes without saying that tenants, they are adapting to the landlords and to the government restriction. And as mentioned Katya, basically the situation in Baltics right now is quite different if we are comparing Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. But what we see from all tenants that the first reaction is very logical. The first of all, tenants are thinking how to decrease the overall expenses. Some of the tenants are cutting working hours. Some of the tenants are closing the shops. For example, even right now in Latvia, I could mention that some of the shops which are working in the shopping center, they're working till 8 o'clock, so basically not the full time. So, so basically brands, they still would like to have some sales, but they are understanding that they are cutting some working hours. And if we are looking at the city center, if the old town of, for example, Riga or Vilnius or Tallinn, that it's obviously that a lot of restaurants and the shops are closed only due to the fact that they feel that there is no reason for the opening. And they took a decision just to close them. And of course, last but not the least, a lot of companies are thinking and they are really decreasing the number of employees, which is quite logical. But this is more or less like the first reaction of the tenants. And afterwards, a lot of tenants, they are starting to understand what are the opportunities and what are the, how they need to adapt, how they need to transform. And of course, the major part of the tenants, they understand that this is the perfect time for transformation. And therefore, we can see that a lot of shops, stores, they implemented the new strategy. They focused on the omni-channel, on the deliveries, some other services. Out of that, we could mention, for example, a grocery segment, which is booming right now. For example, Rimi, they have this click and collect scheme where you can order online all goods and you could drive past by the store and collect everything. Or, for example, Barbora and Rimi, and in Estonia, we could mention Tallink Express, food delivery via internet, via phone. And as we see right now, the demand is so big that you cannot receive at the same time your goods. Also quite good example, what we see that how restaurants are switching to the deliveries. Of course, there is a standard way how the restaurant behavior, for example, they focus on deliveries via different application, also the Bolt and Volt. And some of the examples are really fascinated. For example, the Narvesen convenience store, which before the COVID, we cannot imagine them like working via deliveries. And right now we see that they just launched delivery services as well. And a lot of restaurants, they also think not only about omni-channel, about delivery, but about how out of that situation still find a way how to survive and find new opportunities. One of the amazing examples, I can mention one brand from the Netherlands called Lothier Restaurants. They are focusing on the meat, steaks, and just particular restaurants. What they did, you can see out of the presentation, just a happy woman standing. So one day they decided to try drive-through strategy. So basically they took a minivan, they took a chef, and the minivan was like rising across the city, and they was preparing the steaks, the meat, and everything for the people. The sales was amazing. They earned 11,000 per day, which is like a very, very big numbers for the restaurant. And also, we see that a lot of brands are focusing on the internet stores. If, for example, because overall the online sales increase for at least 30%, it differs from the segments for sure. But what we see that if we're looking a bit at the future, that this trend that companies are going online remain the same. And even after COVID, the people behaviors, they will change. And this is like the action for the all brands. If you didn't launch your online sales or omni-channel, this is the perfect time to do that. And also all the social media, Facebook and etc. works for the tenants very, very good. Also, what Katya started to mention is about the government support, the aid to the tenants. And as we might see, for example, in Latvia, there is no particular strategy how to behave. In Lithuania and in Estonia, they're already started some actions to support the tenants and the landlords. But what we need to understand that this is about triangle, magic triangle. So tenants, landlords, and government should be together, and only working together, we will keep this triangle and we will be strong. So therefore, some of the tenants, they already initiated some discussions with the tenants, with the landlords directly, do not wasting the time. And because first of all, they need to focus how to survive. They need to focus how to establish the future still strategy and expansion. And one of the actions what tenants are asking for the landlords, I will mention to all of you. Of course, we have a lot of participants from the landlord's point of view, and you see in the details how those negotiations are going on. But for just to sum up how basically tenants are looking at that situation. First of all, some of the tenants, especially from the fashion segment, they are asking only rent based on the percentage from the turnover. Also, companies, for example, like CCC, Sizer, Polish brands, they are going directly to the landlords and asking to decrease the rent for 6-12 months up to 50%. Some of the tenants which are due to the government restriction could not operate, for example, family entertainment center or entertainment centers as a whole, also fitness clubs, which is not operated, they are asking just to release them from the rent, which seems quite logical because they are not operated. And also, but what is the best solution right now? While the government did not implement some restriction and the rules how to behave, the best scenario how to solve the issue, this is a case-by-case scenario. And this is what we see speaking with all landlords, that there is no one strategy for the whole shopping center or one strategy for the all shopping centers. There is still this case-to-case strategy, which helps still to support the tenants and on the same time focus on the long-term cooperation. Because what is very important to mention that out of positive things about transformation, adapting, there is also another side. And then another side shows that at least right now we have 40 companies in the Europe which has already announced administration processes or bankruptcy. And out of that 40 companies, of course, major part are related to the fashion industry, the food beverage industry. And it's a surprise that some of the brands are very well known and brands which seems very stable, like Laura Ashley, Vapiano, Brother, and a lot of companies which we see right now also started administration processes. For example, Debenhams in UK. Of course, they are not the same legal entities who we have in the Baltic countries, but it means that they are linked to the mother companies, and this is just a matter of the time how they will react on our market. So, but it's also worth to mention that not all companies which are bankrupting right now are bankrupting only due to the COVID. For some company, it was natural process that they just, the COVID was one of the point why they end up with cooperation on the market. But not to end with some negative note, I would like to still focus you on the reopening strategy and just to touch the topic what brands are thinking for the future. For sure, reopening strategy directly means the house priority. And as example, I could mention Mango. By the end of the April, Mango announced that they plan to reopen 620 stores. Of course, they made some guidelines, and basically it's quite interesting that those guidelines could be also led by different brands, which could bring to the market more reopenings. So you could also see what measures are taking Mango. For example, gloves and safety masks. This is must in the store, which have to wear employees and also the customers. In the future, you may see more doors which will be opened by the leg or by the shoulder, more contactless services, cashless payments, environmentally friendly package, and also limit of the people in the stores. And what mentioned Agia, that some of the landlords, they feel that in the future brands will need some more space. This is due to the fact that they need to secure the distance, and therefore some of the brands are thinking out of loud to the future that they need to secure bigger space. And also you may see more awaiting line near the entrances, which is quite logical. By that, we could see that the Mango is quite good example how brand already transforming and think to the future. And I would like to sum up basically all our webinar that in the future we will see new normal for the landlords, new normal for the tenants, for the government, and we just need to adapt to these new normal rules. Unfortunately, we are really running out of time, and I'm not able to answer all of your questions. And I hope that some of the questions was answered or touched during our speeches. But please write us directly your answers or call us. We will be able to answer all of them. And also follow us to see what upcoming webinars we will be able to lead. And last but not the least, 6th November will take place a BRELF conference. And please use the opportunity right now to buy tickets for the special prices, because for sure some of the topics will be discussed also during the conference. Thank you for being with us. Stay with us. See you.